I hate to sound like a cliche, but my first reaction is always to do that. Hey, you got this. But then it's okay, that's not enough. I was like, me? Like, why me? There's so many other people like you could have probably chosen.
Hi, I'm Hannah Bloking.
Hi, I'm Allison Macklick, and you are back with us with another episode of Imposter Talks from 4 Under 3.
We are so excited to have our very special guest, Rene, on. So, Rene and I and Allison all got together and did an imposter syndrome workshop. And we were just talking about how this was the first time that Allison and I were so inspired by a story that we heard in one of the workshops that we wanted to make sure we brought the panelists in and shared the story with the world. Rene, over to you. Tell us about you. Who are you? What's your background? How did you get to where you are today?
Awesome. So I'm Rene Dominguez. I am a DEI specialist at Logic Monitor. I've been a jack of all trades. I've done a lot of things in my career. I initially got into college athletics and coaching, coached volleyball. That allowed me to also dabble into other full-time jobs simultaneously. So I've been like account manager, an office manager. And when came to Austin, I finally got into tech, into workplace experience. And with that came a lot of the culture side of the office and getting people rallying the troops and just creating events for people to connect. And when I got to Logic Monitor, I was very fortunate to have a want from our employees to start community groups. And through that, I was able to support a lot of the programming and learn what our community groups got in that. And I learned what it was and how important and impactful it was for our employees. I decided to do this as a full-time thing. So I was fortunate to be able to shift and be promoted into the role for doing a lot of the work and the grassroots efforts of starting these groups. So yeah, that's a little bit about my career trajectory.
That's awesome. So we have got the pleasure of working with you for the last couple months, getting to know you. And so we know this, but we'd love for our audience to share, what does the term imposter mean to you? When you hear it, when you see other people talking about it, what resonates with you?
Resonates in the sense of you feel like, is this really me? Did I do this? And it almost feels, no, I did not. You have that doubt. And you almost second guess yourself and you even feel scared and nervous because even just talking about it now, I go back to like, why would I feel that way? I've always worked hard and I like to read and I like to be prepared and just be so knowledgeable, but you still can't fight that feeling of, did I achieve this? Did I really accomplish all of this? So with me, that's where it really started. And that's where I feel it the most, I think.
Yeah, you are so accomplished. Maybe can you tell us a specific time? It can be recently, maybe where you felt that imposter creeping up, like that time where you were like, oh, is this me? And talk about how you pushed through it. What did you do to get through that moment?
Yeah. Again, back to that whole career cycle, I think it's because I was able to persevere. I got to the point where recently I was like, did I achieve all of this? Have I was selling my accomplishments and my things very short to the team. Oh, I just calendar stuff and I don't do too much. And everybody would be like, Rene, you do so much. So when I came into the role and I was promoted to the DI specialist, I went above and beyond. I even did a certification through Cornell and I did a lot of networking at AWS. And I was seeing that a lot of the things that I'm learning and doing, I'm like, oh, I've already done this. I've been doing the right things. But then I was asked like, hey, can you come and present for this event hosted by Culture Amp and talk about your DI journey? And it's so great and it's phenomenal. And we want you to share your knowledge. And we think it could really help others who want to get into the space and learn and grow as well. And I felt, since I'm a little earlier in my career in DEI, I was like, me? Like, why me? There's so many other people like you could have probably chosen. And my boss was just very supportive. And she was like, you got this, just speak from the heart and you're going to do great. And I was like, okay, I do got this. And even though I had all the support and everything, I still couldn't shake that feeling of feeling like an imposter. And I did all the prep work, studied so hard of what am I going to say to these questions, wrote it all down, which is usually not my style. I like quick bullet points and then I'll just speak. So I get there. Lo and behold, one of my coworkers was like, hey, what are you doing here? he was like, I'm invited to this event. And I was like, oh, I'm actually speaking. And he was like, oh, wow, you're speaking. So that made me feel even more nervous for a second. But once I got there and I was introduced to the panel and I did the talk and I answered, once I was up there, I lost the nervousness. I was cool. I think I did a great job. My colleague was like, everybody was just so engaged and just taking down so many notes. And the panel was like, oh my God, we love hearing you speak and you're so passionate about DEI. My friend was like, hey, I got a picture of you speaking. And when I saw it, I thought, okay, like this guy looks confident and this guy, and I saw the people were engaged. And that was the turning point for me where I was like, okay, I am not an imposter. I got this. Obviously, people are seeing, they're listening, they're engaged, and I don't need the constant reassurance. Like I just need to look back. So I do look back on that picture and I see it and I keep it in my phone and I'm like, you got this. This is all in your head. Don't stress the little things.
Yes. And I love that so much because that's the story you told during the celebrity panel portion of the workshop. And that picture, I would never, ever have guessed that you had felt any kind of imposter in that picture. Like we would never have known. So for you being vulnerable and telling your story. And I also love that someone just happened to be there to collect that picture for you.
Yes.
And now you have that as your like, hey, I can do this. Here's like the visual proof of it. I just think it's really powerful.
Something else that you just said that really resonated with me is you were talking about how when you were doing the presentation, you just looked and saw how engaged everybody was. So you just needed to open your eyes. Like you needed to look out. So I love that. So what's one top takeaway? If somebody were to ask you like, I have a big presentation coming up. I'm so scared. I shouldn't be doing this. What would you tell that person?
I hate to sound like a cliche, but my first reaction is always to do that. Hey, you got this. But then it's okay, that's not enough. I like to use examples of, hey, you've done this before. Remember that time you already presented this or you've done something similar? Because for me, that's what worked. I'm like, hey, I've already presented in front of so many people on something that I'm passionate about. So there's no need to get too nervous. It's normal to have a little bit. You shouldn't feel like an imposter. A little bit of nerves is okay. But going back to your question, using, I think, real life examples that are concrete that somebody can say, oh yeah, you noticed that in me. So yeah, thank you. I think that offers like a true, genuine support to someone versus just saying the typical, you got this. Everybody can just say, yeah, be a good cheerleader, but you're really paying attention to the person and people for who they are and what they've done and their value. You can really play to their strengths and be real with them. And I think that really helps people become more grounded and centered and confident.
Totally agree. We heard one time a woman said, be your own best friend. So it's like, what would your best friend be telling you right now? And then internalize that. I've done this before. Look, I have a picture of me doing it. It's like bringing that through. Renee, this has been wonderful. Like we said before, we've never asked someone from a workshop to come and share, but we just adore you. And we thought your story was really powerful and really resonate with people. One of my takeaway is if I'm ever speaking, someone better get it on camera because I
Yes.
don't see it.
Sentiment is mutual. The work you all have done is so great. And I really appreciate like everything you've done for my team and the company. It was very powerful and impactful. So we really do appreciate you too.
Oh my gosh, that just made my week. Perfect. I can't have any more meetings today. Thank you. Always such a pleasure. We learn so much from you every time. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You all too.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Imposter Talks.
Subscribe, like, and review our podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And please follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube at 4under3.
And we want to hear your imposter story. If you're interested in being a guest, please email us at info@4under3.io. Thanks so much.